Hello everyone and welcome to the Wales TUC Coping with COVID conversations and welcome to my living room. My name is Marion Burke and I'm the Policy Officer for Trade Union Education for the Wales TUC. And today we are being joined by Pam Heneberry, who is from the Professional Development Centre. Croeso Pam, welcome. It's great to see you again. So today we're going to be talking about tools and techniques to help us protect our well-being and keep strong during these never-ending, really difficult times. Now, the questions I'm going to be asking today have been sent in by viewers of the Wales TUC Coping with COVID sessions. And for anyone listening or viewing at home, these are a set of bite-sized video sessions which look at ways of promoting well-being. Now, they're only 4 to 8 minutes long, so they're really quick and easy to view, and they're fantastic sessions. So if you've missed them, you can catch them up on the Wales TUC website. And the address for that is tuc.org.uk/Wales. So, Pam, the Wales TUC and the Professional Development Centre developed the Coping with COVID sessions together in response to the pandemic. So why do we need to focus on strengthening our well-being just now?
Thank you, Marion. Great question to start off the session with. I mean, I don't have to say to you or anybody else that we are going through a massive series of changes, not just one change, but many changes that have been coming our way. Our working patterns have changed. Our family get-togethers with each other has changed. There are places we can go, there are places that we can't go. So really, everything that we know, the patterns of how we behave, have all been thrown up in the air. And we are creatures of habit. We like to have patterns. We like to have rituals almost in how we behave and what that looks like. So taking away those patterns and those boundaries, if you like, can be really quite scary for us and can have an enormous impact on our well-being, both physically and mentally. Talking to people at the moment, and they're going from one virtual meeting to another virtual meeting with no break in between. They're not even walking to the next room, let alone driving to the next place. So, I guess one of the things that we might want to think about when we think about our well-being is how do we create new patterns and new boundaries that could be really helpful to how we feel both physically and mentally.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think we need to cut ourselves a little bit of slack at the moment, and we need to realise that things are different in every aspect of our lives. And I think that's why the Coping with COVID sessions have been so useful and have generated so many questions. And if you don't mind now, Pam, I'd like to sort of move on and go to our first question, if that's okay, which is from Jenny, who is a health and safety rep, and she works in the public sector in West Wales. And Jenny asks, what are some of the key things we need to think about to help us cope with these changing times?
Yeah, and I don't think Jenny's alone really in asking that question. It's such a pertinent question. And Marion, you mentioned those short video clips that we did for the TUC. One of them that we looked at was called the Kubler-Ross change curve, and it was an actual diagram. It looked like a roller coaster, if you like. That's the sort of image that's in my head when I think about that. And this Kubler-Ross change curve comes from the world of bereavement, but it's used widely now in private and public sector. And it kind of charts out the different emotions that we go through when we're trying to deal with huge change that's thrown at us. So it's everything from initially feeling shock, maybe anger, or even disbelief, all those negative emotions that we can feel, all the way through to where we start to make sense of the change and begin to kind of come out of that. So then we sort of think about new patterns of working and feel much more secure in thinking we can deal with that change. So Kubler-Ross say, look, folks, it's really okay to feel these emotions and go through these different emotions. And, in fact, if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be human. So, a bit like you just said, cut yourself a bit of slack, be kind to yourself, recognize that going through these emotions is human, and you will come out the other end. You will come up the curve as well as going down the curve, but also recognize that sometimes you can go backwards. So one day you can wake up and feel, I'm really making sense of this. It's integrated into my new ways of behaving, my new ways of working. But then the next day you might feel a little bit low. Again, just recognize it and just give yourself space.
Yeah. Isn't it just like a roller coaster, though? That it is a visual representation of how I feel most days. I can get up in the morning, feel like I'm rocking it, and then by midday, I'm back to the beginning again. And I have to say, seeing that curve, actually physically seeing it, saved my life. It just made me realize that it was okay. It was okay to feel like I'm feeling. And it also made me realize that it wasn't just me that was feeling like this. It was my partner, it was my daughters, it was even my grandchildren. And to also cut them some slack as well, because they're on the same roller coaster as me. So yeah, that and if anyone hasn't seen that particular session, I think it is the first one of our Coping with COVID session, so I'd highly recommend you go onto the Wales TUC website and check it out. It's a really good little session. So, Pam, I'd like to move on to our second question. And our next question is from Tidir, who works in the health and social care sector. And he says, some people are feeling really out of control and overwhelmed by events. What can I do to help?
Again, it's those ideas again, isn't it, around change and control and lack of control, and again how that lack of control can really destabilize us, really make us feel shaky. One technique I particularly like, and it's, again, it's a visual technique, so it might appeal to those people that like to sort of see something in their mind's eye. And this comes from Stephen Covey, so great author, Stephen Covey, and he talks about circles of concern and circles of influence. So what he says is, you get yourself a sheet of paper, get yourself a nice big sheet of paper and draw on that paper a very large circle. And that's your circle of concern. And what you need to do is to populate that circle with all the things that you are concerned or worried about. So, I don't know, what are we worried about? Maybe there's somebody in your family who's not very well at the moment, or you're worried about your job situation, or you're concerned about the children and their education, all the things that are of concern in your life. You might also be worried about the economy. So it's the big things and the small things. And even just writing them down is a start in terms of the process. But he goes on to say then, what you need to do is then draw a smaller circle, and that smaller circle is your circle of influence. And what you need to do is put everything into that smaller circle of influence that you can actually do something about. What have you got influence over? And then he says, do you know what? You need to spend the majority of your energy and your time and your focus on that circle of influence. what can I do something about? I can do something about these things here. Park the rest. Don't forget them totally, but don't spend all your resources on them. Park them, focus on the influence circle, and see if you can grow that circle of influence until it gets bigger and takes in more of your concerns.
Wow, yeah, that is a really good tip. When I was listening to what you were saying, and I did my big circle, and I was thinking, I can absolutely fill that big circle. And then you said, draw the little circle, and only put in the things you have actual power to change in there. And I just thought, yeah, I don't have to worry about all that other stuff. All I need to worry about is the things that I can actually change and take control of. And it's almost like putting it into a manageable portion that I can do sort of straight away and forget the rest. And that is such, it almost feels like a weight off your shoulders that you don't have to worry about that. That's for another time. And I think when everything else is changing around you, you need to put all your energies into what you can change, don't you? You really do. I don't know how many times people listening have spent a whole day worrying about something that never actually happened in the end, and you could have used all that energy actually changing something you did have control over. So that is a really, really awesome tip. So I know time's ticking on, Pam, so I'd like to move on to our next question, and it's from Camel G, who is a key worker. Many of us are feeling low at the moment. The weather and winter perhaps making us feel less than positive. Are there any thoughts you've got that can help us?
Yeah, interesting. I've been really interested recently to notice. I don't think I've ever noticed quite so much as you know, over the last few months, how much the weather does impact on me. So if the sun's shining, I feel a bit, you know, a bit perkier. If it's raining, it's really hard to find that energy and sparkle, you know. There's a few things, and maybe this question would be really good to think about some positive psychology. And this is the work of Martin Seligman, and he's known as the father of positive psychology. He actually coined that phrase. And he talks of a few things. He talks first of all about maybe stopping just for a couple of minutes. So it's not hugely time consuming, but maybe just stopping and writing a nourishment list for yourself. So just standing back and thinking, what nourishes me? What gives me energy? And what replenishes me? And not just thinking about it, but actually physically stopping and writing those things down for yourself. And, you know, they don't have to be huge. It can be the sun shining today, or I took my dog for a lovely walk, or I had a great phone conversation with my friends. So all the things that you really feel give you joy. And when you're feeling down, maybe revisiting that list and reading it.
That is such a great idea. I never thought about, I write lists for everything. I never thought about writing a nourishment list. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, everybody's got a smartphone, or they may even have some AI in their house that you can write a list on and get a reminder for like a couple of times a day of a list of things that you know that nourish you. You sort of, you know, like, I don't know, it's like a little bit of vitamin D for the mind, maybe, you know, something to perk you up and make you remember that you've got to nourish your well-being as well as your actual body. Yeah, I love that idea. I'm going to make one as soon as this call is finished.
He also talks, and you might like this one as well, he talks about before you go to bed every night, actually writing down 3 positive things that have happened to you during the day. And there's some great research. He's written a book called Flourish. It's a wonderful book. And he talks about the research that even after a few weeks, how just doing this one small thing, again, 2 or 3 minutes, writing down 3 positive things that have happened to you each day can really change your mindset. And some of the research he's done is with people who are, clinically depressed, and it's influenced their mindset. So I think, again, it's something very simple that we could put into practice that might really give us that boost that we need at the moment.
Yeah, something so simple being so powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, amazing. So, Pam, are there any other tips or hints you can give us for something to do to keep ourselves sort of grounded, to reboot, to keep ourselves in the moment, if you like?
Well, probably one of my favourite tools or techniques is around mindfulness. So this is something I'm quite passionate about, particularly the work of Professor Mark Williams, who's probably the guru in the UK around mindfulness practice. And it's really useful, I think, because you can just do a tiny little bit. You can just do an activity around mindfulness that will take you a minute or two, and yet it can have such an incredible impact. Maz, if I said to you, do an hour's meditation or do an hour and a half of yoga every day, you just say, Pam, are you mad? I'm a busy person, I haven't got this time to do. So it's really important, and all these techniques that we've talked about today, they're just going to take a couple of minutes of your time, and yet they could make an absolutely profound difference. So mindfulness would be it for me.
So, Pam, you're saying that I can reboot and get back into a good place in just a minute without going anywhere or doing something special or lighting a candle, or I can do that right here, right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Would you like to have a go? Would you like to
Yeah,
try?
okay, yes, I'll give it a go, and perhaps the people who are listening and viewing would like to try it too. So I'm all yours, Pam.
Okay, and I'm going to base this, as I said, on the work of Professor Mark Williams. So the first thing that he says is to think about how you're sitting at the moment. So get yourself on your chair so that your feet are really firmly planted on the ground, and really feel the ground under your feet. You might even want to take your shoes and socks off if you've got shoes and socks on, and just get that connection with the ground. And that in itself is a lovely starting point to actually feel that you're grounded, that you are part and parcel of the physical world around you. Next thing he talks about is just kind of getting rid of the tensions in your body. So just checking out, maybe are you clenching your jaw, or do your shoulders need to just release that tension? Yeah, that's right. Just sort of just rolling your shoulders maybe, or getting your head to release the tension, maybe in your neck. Particularly good for those of us that sit and stare at screens for hours and hours at a time. So useful, I think. He then talks about, and it's a lovely phrase, he talks about sitting with dignity. I love that idea. So just getting yourself into a position, maybe sitting a little bit away from the back of the chair, and just being comfortable and sitting with dignity. Just feeling that relaxed sensation, leaving go of all the tensions that you've been holding in your body. And then just very, very gently bringing your mind to focus on the breath. So just being aware of all your anxieties floating away, just seeing them float away, all your problems, all your worries, they're just leaving you, they're floating away, and you're coming back to focus on your breath. Just feeling the breath coming into your body and feeling the breath going out of your body. And maybe just slowing that breath down, just slowing it down a little and focusing just on the breath. Just clearing your mind of anything else and just thinking about your breath coming in and your breath going out. Breath coming in and the breath going out. For the last couple of breaths, taking an even deeper breath, feeling that breath going all the way down to your toes, all the way down to your fingertips, and really bringing you energy. Just bringing energy into every little bit of your body and helping to keep you relaxed and helping you keep grounded. And when you're ready, just very gently coming back into the room.
Wow, Pam, that's amazing. It really made a difference. I can feel like the stress around my shoulders have gone, and I can't believe that just what was it, a minute, that has made such a difference. And what a lovely way to end our conversation. And again, I hope you did that at home and you enjoyed it. But if you've missed our Coping with COVID online bite-sized learning sessions, you can catch them up on the Wales TUC website on tuc.org.uk/Wales. And if you've got any questions for us about any of the sessions, you can email us on the Wales TUC address, which is walestuc@tuc.org.uk. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Pam. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you so much, Marion. Diolch yn fawr.
And thank you everyone for listening, and look out for our next Coping with COVID conversation, which will hopefully be coming to you soon. Hwyl fawr pawb. Goodbye everyone.